из разных стран, сидят у себя дома. И они, может, только встали, зубы почистили, кофе выпили и вперед.
Alrighty, I'm strizer86. I'm here to
Тут
help
особо
you with
комментировать
Castlevania
будет
block
нечего.
here with a Castlevania Chronicles original mode
Тут просто
task.
хороший
I
роутинг.
know we're trying to get things under
Отличие от
control, and
классики
there's a
тут
lot to
то,
explain, so we're going to
что
get right into it.
главный герой
It's a
может
little bit
бить
different in terms of
вниз
start time. Task timing actually
и
starts
по
right
диагонали,
on. This is going to
получается,
start
вниз.
in 3, 2, 1, go.
А так-то это
Alrighty.
все, это как бы
So
обычное
Castlevania
первое
Chronicles,
Castlevania.
the much lesser
С
known
другими уровнями, только
PlayStation
переработано, с другими
Castlevania title.
боссами
It's often
некоторыми.
overlooked because of Symphony of the Night, which we all know and love Symphony of the Night. It actually differs quite a bit. It's a
Ну,
typical
спрайты
side-scrolling
перерисованы.
platformer. There's
Вся
no
фигня.
RPG elements to it, anything like that.
Ремейк первой части,
We're going
только
to
для
rush
плойки.
right through the intro here. This is an original mode task.
Поэтому оно
So there's two
длиннее.
modes included in the game. There's original mode and there's
Но
also
по
a
части
ranged mode.
того,
A ranged
тех
mode
возможностей, что может
essentially
герой,
is
не
kind of
особо-то
like
он
an
может.
easier mode, if you will. It has different available difficulties available in the options for it. But there's things like no knockback to provide a little more leniency. Stuff doesn't do
За
quite
60
as much
баксов,
damage.
да.
And you have a 3-frame window to jump after walking off a ledge. But we're going original mode for a couple different reasons. We're going original mode.
У Таса другой
because
таймер, свой
damage
таймер
boost, essentially.
считается.
And there wasn't an original mode task in existence prior.
У них другие
The original
правила.
mode task, which kind of serves as the inspiration
То
for
есть он
this.
не бежит, не
Stage
выбивает
1 is
никакие
going to
улучшения
be
для
very
кнута.
RTA-esque in
Взял
the
только
sense
доп.
that
Оружия.
all of these strats are actually going to be RTA viable, but there's some
Он это
nuances
улучшение
we're
будет
going to
брать
go over,
потом.
and it's going to impact the rest of the run as well.
Наравне с убийством
So, for
мобов, да.
example, when you do a horizontal
Оптимально,
jump,
то есть и
it actually
оружие,
increases the
и
radius
усиление
of
подобрать,
horizontal movement. So anytime that
кнута
you're
и
moving horizontally
моба
here,
убить. Все в
you're
один.
going to want to minimize
В один
your jumps.
клик.
So what's happening in stage 1 is you're either jumping over or killing certain enemies to impact further spawns and reduce further jumps, and just save a couple frames where you can here. We picked up the dagger, which was used on the Black Panthers a moment ago, and if you kill the third Black Panther at an appropriate time, it actually despawns.
Рандомные, да? Они есть, но они не рандомные, получается.
We're unfortunately not able to take the bat boost that you see in Castlevania 1.
Для Таса они стали не рандомными. Так-то они рандомные, конечно. Вот этот скип мне интересно, возможно сделать в ремейке Кастлы или нет от мыши? Потому что дэмэдж буст от мыши, он в этой Кастельвании есть, чтобы за это добраться на платформу. Но возможно ли его тут исполнить? Ну, судя по тому, что люди Тасы делают без этого скипа, видимо, это нереально. Надо будет проверить на самой версии игры. Конкретно этот скип помучить. Возможно или невозможно. Люди, кстати, тоже его почему-то не делают. Но в оригинальной Кастле можно сделать этот скип от мыши. То есть тебе не надо будет спускаться вниз. Ты просто поверху проходишь.
And the stopwatch prevents him from doing that. So simple jump attacks, and he's done. Like any traditional Castlevania game, or I guess typical Castlevania game, not all of them. We saw Drac X wasn't this, but we're gonna want to dump all of our hearts prior to end of stage because it does take time to.
Здесь, кстати, роляет, сколько сердец оставилось. То есть таймер считается, и сердца считают. Поэтому он будет сливать кресты. Довольно продолжительно. Тут каждая единичка времени долго считается.
That you see in other Castlevania games. So the green that you're seeing here actually impacts the RNG every frame.
Да, основные донаты. Вон, Lost Judgment, там непонятно на что собирают.
Immediately start killing enemies afterwards.
Деревня тоже, тут 70 косарей, нормально так.
And you're going to see some tech here, a couple pieces of tech. You're seeing
За эти деньги можно свою деревню построить, да.
And you're also seeing sub-weapon throws while moving. So these are kind of combined. When you do a whip attack in air, if it's just a normal whip attack and you land, you actually pause for the duration of the animation. But a diagonal down.
Так, это здесь, это немного измененный уровень, у нас где даже босс будет.
Where this comes into play in terms of sub-weapons is
В обычной Castlevania мы эту проходим локацию и выходим на поверхность.
the amount of frames that you
А здесь, прежде чем выйти на поверхность, нам надо будет бить
throwing your sub-weapon.
костяного дракона.
So essentially what you're doing here, and you'll see me doing a lot of whips in midair where
X2, X3 мы взяли.
you know, discernible reason per se.
Крестов 6 нам
What
захватит
I'm
за
doing
глаза.
actually is making sure that there's just one frame left in the whip animation, so I can throw a sub
У нас их даже 12.
like that. And in addition, you can also throw it backwards if you just turn around.
На кончике сидим. Плота.
So the cross has a really strange sound in this game. I'm sure you guys have probably picked up on it by now. We've got a little bit of a raft section here, and we're gonna do
Бешеные гонки в
we're
канализации.
gonna have just some good old fun, and we're gonna take out as many mermen as possible. We're gonna ride the raft onto the little parts when it gets busted, and do these little sliding crosses to take out as many as possible. But yeah, we've built up our triple. This is normally where the RTA run would be getting the cross. There is a cross in one of these candles here. So this is normally where you'd see the RTA run get the cross. You're gonna see
Ой, чё, 4 сердечка.
set up the boss, and you're gonna see the first example of what's called damage stacking.
9,
So
да.
bosses, when they take damage from every source that's overlaid
Где-то босс на подходе.
all at once, slons are vulnerable. So 4 things, 2 things, 2 things.
8-битная.
It was really quick. It was
Ну, расписание-то есть. Посмотри, по-моему, уже кончилось 8-битная.
but overlaying the 3 crosses over the boss and then the whip means that takes damage from all 4 of those sources. And then
Ва.
when it's vulnerable again, you basically
Можно
have
было, да.
another cross and your whip, etc. over it again. So that's how we're going to be taking.
Кстати, босса убил быстрее. Возможно, новое время будет еще быстрее, чем было.
Sure, I can sneak in a quick
Какое там
donation.
самое
I
быстрое
would
время
like
вы
to do,
нашли?
a call to an upcoming incentive that we have.
Да кому в здравом уме нужен
Um,
Тетрис?
Lost Judgment. The Yakuza
Если это
series
не
is
чемпионат
very near
мира.
and dear to my heart, and this one is a spin-off of the Yakuza series.
Нет. Тетрис эффект это круто.
Incredible incentive
Какой там
for
Тетрис
the
99 там еще или
boss
что там
rush,
было?
which means that at the end of
Где
the
люди
game,
с
there is a
толпой
secret
играют.
unlocked
Вот это интересно
where
еще.
the runner will have to beat a whole bunch of challenges, speedrun challenges.
24:58, да,
really
самое быстрое?
strenuous, and they have to get it done in a certain time limit. So let's try and
А,
put
другой
some,
режим.
donations towards that. We are $98,000 from having that met, but from everything I've seen at this event, I know that we can
Мгм.
make it happen. And
Ну, сейчас посмотрим. Ну, судя по тому, как отъехал босс, он будет быстрее. Так что тасс он поменял. Предыдущий тасс, который я смотрел, босс умирал не так. Тут дракон даже не вылез.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely keep getting those donations in. It's a cause that's near and dear to my heart, so definitely keep donating. And don't forget those incentives, like mentioned. They're there. If you're going to be donating,
Может, у
you
меня
might as well put it
сохранен
towards an
старый
incentive
тасс
and,
просто был.
get some more games this week. So we're on to block 3 here. Block 3 is a good chance to kind of touch on a couple differences between versions and why I'm using the JP version. The Japanese version has a larger hitbox
Местные гонки
for
какие-то.
the cross as well as the dagger. Dagger's not going to be impactful, but the cross is really going to come into play. There's some small sections throughout, but the biggest reason it's going to make a difference is actually going to be for the boss at the end of this section here. Normally when the boss spawns, it doesn't attack, and it spawns in the
мне не
top right
направляй.
corner, and there's no way that you can hit it in the North American version. You basically are subject to the boss's first attack. You kinda
Диких
just have to
этих.
wait it out. Fortunately, in the JP version with the larger cross, you can hit it as soon as it spawns, and we're going to be seeing another.
В реальности было бы интересно, если бы он сам это все делал.
The stage, for the most part, has been a lot
Я
the
бы
same here,
посмотрел.
minimizing jumps where possible. You're going to ride that section of the ice down because it makes us go a little bit faster. There's one section up here that instead of actually jumping off of a ledge right here, we're going to drop straight down.
И если он там говорит, кстати, по поводу... Никто вопросов ему не задавал, и он сам не комментировал, почему он именно эту часть. Клепает тассы по этой части.
So yeah, we're coming up to the third boss. It's going to be another quick set of damage stacks. I'm going to influence his position with my position here, and blink and you miss it. So that was actually faster than it would take him to do one full
Максимально
attack. So on the
быстро
North American
отъехал.
version, if you had to wait out that one attack, basically,
Даже не
one
успел
attack
ничего
you would have
сказать.
been waiting
Айс
for
Лорд
essentially
наш.
would have been longer than that whole fight. There's another reason that Japanese is also
Не, меня
useful,
интересует,
and
почему он по этой косле
this
именно
is
сделал.
hitbox, and,
Чем она ему приглянулась, почему
because
именно по
iframes
этой, а
are
не по
essentially
другим.
broken in the Japanese version. And
Почему не по ронда, к примеру,
it doesn't
сделать
really have
таз?
any iframes as a result. That's going to be coming up here in the next stage. I guess there's a couple other
Медуза, он
bosses I
следующий
haven't
босс.
really mentioned.
Там еще допель будет,
Stairs, for
по-моему, и
example.
сам дракон.
Stairs, you want to climb at
А,
an
в детстве?
index point.
Понятно.
And what I mean by that is you can start pressing up prior to reaching the
Травма
stairs,
детства.
and actually
Все
10
ясно.
frames essentially can be lost by suboptimal stair climbing. And,
Она непростая, она не настолько интересная, как другие могли
stairs,
бы
basically
быть.
what happens is it pulls him into the stairs, but it does so at the rate that he
Те же
climbs the
тассы по
stairs, which is
симфонии
slower
были
than
бы
normal
поинтереснее.
horizontal movement.
Но только
So
говорю,
any
самое,
set of stairs,
смотря
you're
что
gonna
делать.
see me getting as close as possible to the actual
Насколько
edge
издевательски
to avoid
ставить
that slower horizontal pull.
возможности героя
Also, everyone's
против
favorite
мобов и
Castlevania
боссов.
tune. If you needed to hear another version of it, here's another version of it. While there's literal bloody tears happening in the background. Another piece of tech that you're gonna notice is you can actually stun
Ну просто
enemies
это выглядит как
with
деревянная, ну как она как супер Castlevania
their
4, такая
hitbox.
же.
So I didn't get damage from that either, but
Неспешная,
it's
мне кажется, даже на Денди
a bit.
быстрее, чем тут двигается персонаж.
Upcoming in this section, you're gonna see
Он как будто не идет Дракулу убивать, а гуляет по замку, смотрит
This is gonna be
достопримечательности.
really the only damage boost that you're gonna see me doing in this task that RTA runners would replicate. The frame window is large enough that that you can do that pretty easily, to be honest. But later, you're gonna be seeing a lot more spicy damage boosts that are not something you would try. Stun locking the shattered glass enemy. All right. I mentioned Medusa's hitboxes. Normally you would see damage stacks, but this is where you're going to really see the crosses kind of do work.
Спорный графоний в супер Котле.
I don't know how to describe that other than she really just doesn't have iframes in this version. And a fun little cross hit there at the end.
Медуза не поняла
to-
тоже,
to
кто ее убил.
detonate her body.
За что и кто.
Orb. All right, we want to sneak in another donation between stages?
Absolutely. So,
Ну, он Диагон даже шарит. Ну, в какой программе делают ТАСС?
Play-Doh that says,
Стас играет, да, Стас.
awesome run
Стас
so far.
Михайлов.
Love the gauntlet of Castlevania
Все
games.
тот же Стас.
Speaking of gauntlets, don't forget about Frub's Lost Judgment run coming up
Его
later,
брат
and the
Серега, да,
incentive
тоже.
for the gauntlet boss rush
Одной,
will
вот
be an
они, видишь?
awesome
Вот
run
они
with
мимо
the
пошли.
boss
Пьет одной рукой
with
воду,
all kinds of conditions and restrictions not to be missed. I
другой рукой
absolutely
играет.
Play-Doh. We definitely love restrictions on our speedruns, so don't forget when you're donating to put it towards the incentive, especially the upcoming one of the Gauntlet Boss Rush with Lost Judgment. Thank you.
Awesome. So we're in the clock tower. Clock tower is kind of like a staple of
Осла,
Castlevania.
3 сложно. На какую концовку?
This is a pretty treacherous clock tower. I'm not gonna lie. This is something that casually frustrated me.
Пиццы нет, да? Откуда ты знаешь, что нет пиццы? Другой рукой, да, пицца есть. Он просто не хочет так это палиться рьяно, что ли. Третьей рукой играет. Ну, я тебе скажу, там 3 концовки, так что ты там попроходи еще, время есть. Где помучиться еще, время есть. И третья часть как бы неплохая, на Денди. За самого Тревора да, тоже. Ну, кстати, апгрейд был, который позволяет лечиться. В отличие от обычной кослы еще, да. Было спецоружие тут, которое лечит тебя. За сердцам. Полоску хп твою устанавливает.
So I should mention as well, I mentioned at the very start of the run that original mode and arrange mode have a little bit differences in terms of damage and health. Essentially, original mode is 4 hits and you're dead, and that's basically the entirety of the game. Arrange mode starts a little more lenient, in which you can take more than 4 hits in some cases. So anytime I was
Что творит
doing
этот
damage
игрок,
boosts
смотрите,
and there
смотрите.
wasn't any health, I would have to kind of consider
Не напрягайся.
what damage boosts I wanted to take or what mandatory damage I kind of had to take.
Я думаю, даже если он отойдет, он сможет продолжать ран.
I feel like like I almost worked myself into a corner when I was doing this task because I started to get towards the end going, am I going to have enough health for this? Or, am I going to regret one of the
Даже
early
если
damage
количество
boosts?
воды перевесит.
So onto Werewolf, small optimization, again, we're using damage
Оборотень
stacks here.
девушка.
Small optimization is actually forcing the werewolf to jump back down. So upon grabbing the object in the background, the werewolf can jump up to do an attack or jump down to do an attack.
Башня на час, да.
Simply to hit as soon as possible. We're just going to basically make sure that the werewolf jumps downward. Boom.
Она даже не успела блоки из стены вырвать.
And
Что
we
это
got time for
такое?
another quick donation.
Не дали побунтовать девушке.
Okay. Well, the puns don't stop on coming. We have Randis with $26 that said, "Why did Dracula
Что ты
take his
стесняешься
cold
спросить?
medication to stop his coughing?" I'll let that one
Спрашивай.
sit with all of you for a little while. Thank you, Randis.
Alrighty.
Это ты
So
еще
on
другие
block
не
6,
проходил части. Ты только Несовские
typically
говоришь,
mess up and use
прошел.
the phrase stage because typically we refer to them as stages.
А,
but
это
in
локально?
Castlevania actually operates in
Понятно.
blocks in the sense that we have what we would normally consider a stage or an area is one block of separate stages, and like each piece of it is stages. It's really strange. We're gonna see a frame perfect jump over a 3-tile gap there. That one is not mandatory. Obviously, you could take the stairs. We're not going to because it's slower. The reason I point that out and the fact that that 3-tile
Насколько
gap
будет
is frame
интересно?
perfect is because a little bit later in the run, there is
Меньше
a
собирать
little
ивент, где будут одни тасы.
3-tile gap that you have to do in the final stage.
Будет ли вообще этот ивент
So,
собирать?
again, RTA
Пользоваться
runners,
популярностью.
good luck.
Великая
Casual
игра.
players, good luck. Konami, that's cruel. Nobody should be forced to do that. We're coming into my favorite section though, in the Tower of Dolls. So this is kind of like the fruits of the labor when it comes to damage
От лука
boosts. You're gonna see
самую
some
первую начинать. В
manipulation
хронологическом
of
порядке.
enemy
Что ты взялся за тройку? Ты еще
and
Инноценс не
we're gonna work our
прошел,
way up
потом
here,
легенды
and we're
там.
gonna basically take
Только
3
потом
damage boosts
тройка
on the way
должна
up.
была быть.
You're also gonna see again, there's a sub-weapon throw while moving. It's worth noting that
По
you can do
хронологии,
that on
пожалуйста,
stairs
по
as well. It's
хронологии
not just
проходите.
exclusive to flat horizontal surfaces. But we're basically going
Тоже
to
вы лезете
manipulate
сразу.
these dolls. I'm gonna whip certain ones at certain times in
15
certain
век.
places so they
14.
cooperate. And we're gonna
А
utilize
как
them
же
to skip stairs.
тысячный?
The stairs are slow. 1, 2.
О, куклы, кстати, вот эти бесячие. Если не тасом проходить, я даже не знаю, как они, люди их проходят. Убивают ему. Сколько тут времени уходит на то, чтобы пройти вот эту фигню.
And we're onto the section of mirrors. It's a little bit of an odd section, but again, you're gonna see.
А, допель,
as it
все,
jumps,
сейчас
we're
будет
gonna
допель, да.
Optimize the crosses.
Они используют часы как
Worth noting as
минимум
well, you can whip twice. You
в
saw
этом
those 2
ране,
down whips there on that night.
чтобы эти куклы на
But you
месте
can actually,
стояли.
you have enough time in a
Хотя
jump
бы в
where you can
начале
get 2 downward whips in a single jump. And we're on to Doppelganger.
комнаты.
Damage stacks, name of the game. Started off with quad, double, and double. It's really not feasible. Like, you pretty much want to start every boss fight with a quad because you can have the 3 crosses on screen and you can overlay the whip. But after that, you're always going to have to rely pretty much on
Разобрали
doubles because you're
зеркало.
never going to have the
Все, 7
ability
лет
to set up
несчастья.
and align all of those crosses again for when the boss comes back.
Именно поэтому он не убил Дракулу до конца. Именно поэтому он был проклят.
But yeah, we can probably sneak in another quick donation here between stages.
Sure thing. Strizer, you're doing a fantastic job. I'm really enjoying this run, so just wonderful. Very entertaining.
Thank you.
Oh god. Let's see. I have a whole string of pun donations, but we'll read one for the time being. I do like this one very much. Simply
Ты же их не
donate
смотришь. 24/7.
$250
Зачем они тебе нужны?
saying, like Alucard said, the only thing necessary for cancer to triumph is
Не. Вот кто
to not
считает
donate.
Castlevania
Here's
Judgment
to
лучшим
cancer
файтингом,
and
тот
taking one step closer to a cancer-less world.
не фанат вообще
We're
серии
increasing
Castlevania, значит.
with
Сразу
more
вот там удаляем.
canon
Из списков вычеркиваем, в блокноты заносим.
Definitely. So we're on to block 7 here. This is our second last block, and you're going to see kind of some optimizations here in hitting enemies with cross. This is kind of a section where, again, my whips are meant to only have 1 frame of animation left when I land, thus allowing me to do the sub-weapon throw.
Вычеркиваем филоноты, все.
I just got that weird bone crawling enemy there at the top of the last screen. The game almost feels, I would say, like from a casual
Мультик-то
perspective,
да,
as well as
конечно.
as a kid, it feels almost a little unintuitive because if you've played Super Castlevania,
Шанкар
before, you know
рисовал
you
же.
can kind of whip in all
Шанкар
directions,
могет.
and you can whip down
Он еще каких-то два будет
diagonally,
рисовать.
but you can't upwhip
В
in
данной
Castlevania
стилистике.
Chronicles, which arguably is probably the most useful.
За правду страдают, видишь? Сразу. Незамедлительно. Радикальные меры. Репрессии и все. Скакалочка костяная тут.
The stage all around is just kind of like traps packed in absolutely everywhere. You've got swinging blades, you've got blades coming out of the ground, you've got blades on things that are swinging.
Ну, за ним тоже, может, едут уже. Никто же не в курсе.
The Axis as well.
Подрядная организация ждала просто, когда он напишет в чат.
So you kind of have to actually hit them. Another sub-weapon throw there while moving. It's worth noting as well, you see the cross as you move when you're doing that.
Сейчас по IP вычислят, где он.
When you're throwing a cross. If you notice when you're doing the moving sub-weapon throw, the cross kind of spawns.
Арт только
which is
классный,
really
да.
useful because it can actually be used to hit enemies behind you. Cross there meant to delay the enemy, so we can safely get up the stairs.
Франкенштейн, типа, как классический босс Castlevania, мы его просто игнорируем. Нету босса в этой игре такого.
And really
Не
fortunate with our
слышали.
projectile spawns that we can get
Зато
just
допили
around
есть.
everything. I highly recommend this game.
Слишком
though, if
много
you haven't
кукол в
played it
данной игре.
and, you like
Миньонов,
your
кукол.
traditional,
В банках
2D
всяких.
Castlevania platformers, there's a backwards cross throw there to take care of the blood skeleton. I highly recommend giving it a try. You don't necessarily have to seek out or search the Japanese version to enjoy it casually. I believe last time I checked, the RTA boards are split between versions even, so if you did want
Куклы
to
значит
running the
куклы.
game, you know, the board should be all
Комментатору
diagonally
лучше
fair, which
знать,
is
кто
nice.
это, кукла или не кукла.
But it's, I think, I want to say almost a lost experience because you hear so much about Soten.
Идем убивать
For
смерть.
good reason. It's an amazing game, but like I wouldn't doubt there's a large percentage of you out
Ну,
there
ты можешь,
who
кстати,
didn't
заняться
know
этим
there
вопросом,
was
почему нет
another
карт по игре.
PlayStation 1 Castlevania game.
Надо создать.
So maybe give it a try. Coming up with death, we're gonna dump some crosses.
Рубить
here.
бабосы.
Don't need them. Again, we're gonna damage stack. And death's iframes, I wish I understood.
Вот, вот, классический вид смерти должен быть. Вторая фаза такая вот должна быть. Черепушка, плащ и коса. Нет, в цикле придумали какую-то абразину, которую даже не показали полностью, как выглядит. Просто убили и все. А ты не говоришь, что это с костлы. Ты измени ники. То есть там не Бельмонды, там, а Бельдонды какие-нибудь будут, и все. Ты не знаешь, как работает, что ли, в жизни? Плагиат?
In original mode and arrange mode. Arrange mode has totally different music. I didn't touch on that either. Again, moving sub-weapon throws here, so you're going to see whip cancels. You're going to see movement through enemies while
Да,
they're
так вот и
stunned, so
работает.
we're getting rid of their hitbox. You're going to see some damage boosts. Some save as little as 6 frames. You're going to see this Shield Knight, which is extremely frustrating. It took me a long time to make sure that he didn't.
Я вам скажу, на Денте-то это сложная Castlevania. А если была вот такая Castlevania на Денте, с таким количеством противников, мобов и всего прочего, ну то чуть попроще бы их сделали. Но... Вооружение, кстати, вооружение в замке. Прям для борьбы с нечистью. То есть было бы такое количество рыцарей, мелких противников, кукол, горящих замков, горящих рыцарей. Дети, бля, вы... Многие, наверное, разлюбили сразу Castlevania. Огромная мышь, кстати, да. Пытается нас отомстить.
a range mode where you have that 3-frame buff.
За мамку или за папку, которого мы убили.
It was just back there a second ago.
Ты ее дети выросли просто.
This should look pretty familiar. You're gonna see a nice
Вам количество такое же, ровно 4 мышки.
coming up off one of these. I don't know if they're technically called Persephone in this game. Looks like Persephone in other games.
Костлявый
Nicely
горничный.
timed invincibility jar with the music right here.
Навыками ниндзя.
That was a happy accident. I wish I could claim that was on purpose, but that just happened by accident, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So again, more utilizations, making sure that we're not whipping horizontally when we're hitting the ground, using those diagonals, using the downward whips. Now the pattern that Dracula is going to give me was actually
Идем,
locked in at the
идем.
start of the stage. Nothing I've done during the stage has impacted the pattern he's going to give me.
Добивать.
Damage stacking crosses over his head for first phase.
А вот Дракулу могли бы поменять хоть что-нибудь, чтобы немного по-другому смотрелся.
Pattern for phase 2. So phase 1 is going to be 2 large stacks, and then we're going to have just a short.
Странный, да, у Дракулы предпочтение.
I wish we could get this into 2 cycles, but it's just not feasible. Backwards cross there. And here comes the end of phase 1. I will say get ready on time as well. Task timing ends
За
on
3
last
раза
input.
убивает.
It doesn't end on the orb grab like you would expect.
За 2
with an
нереально.
RTA run.
Вторая
I'll call
фауна.
it out here.
Абразина еще там.
And time.
Она вообще не подпрыгнет, наверное, даже, да?
So normally in an RTA run, you'd expect obviously to jump and grab.
Но не успела даже прыгнуть. Просто слилась. Так, какое время? 25:44. Уп. Новое время. Новое, я же прав.
And yeah, this is Castlevania Chronicles original mode tasks. This is my second task that I've ever published. I did one previous, which was Castlevania Legends for Game Boy, and actually ended up being a lot more difficult.
Не зря
It's
писал.
going to be easier because I'm like, oh, let's just pick something easy. Start with Game Boy, you know, minimal input options. But yeah, Castlevania Chronicles. Highly recommend checking it out. Big shoutouts again, and thank you to GDQ for having me and allowing me to showcase this. I know they've kind of relaxed their rules around accepting task runs recently.
Не, у Тасов по-другому считается время.
Big shoutouts to the task everyone that I interacted with in, you know,
Да, если сейчас его друг придет, какой-нибудь тоже,
absolutely great to deal with.
ученик.
If you haven't checked out the new Task Videos site, check it out. Looks phenomenal. They just dropped it recently. And,
Это второй раз проходишь, когда они там борются уже.
the cause is near and dear to my heart. I have family members that have been in touch
На
with
фоне
me
этого разрушенного
as
замка.
well. I'm on the board for Game Over Cancer, and I run their speedrun events for the cause. So I always love when I can participate in events like this that hit really so close to home. So thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the marathon, and yeah, keep up the good work.